This is our panel of employers to talk about internships. Tim will do some introductions. Just wanted to say, because some people have to leave because of schedules, if you could fill out an evaluation form and leave it over there, that would be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Tim.
All right, thank you. And I think we made history here today, bringing together people to discuss these topics. It has been an amazing day, and I'm looking forward to hearing what our panelists will tell us to kind of begin to close out the day. What we've got and what we've tried to do with the employer panel is really give a very broad range of perspectives. We have an employer that has a very formalized internship program. We have one that is more of an emerging internship program and not really is ramping up to some extent. We have a very small employer where I happen to know for a fact that the interns have to be very nimble and very quick. And then we have an employer that is kind of at the doorstep of developing an internship program. They had some experience with internships, so we'll have a broad range of perspectives here today, and I'm looking forward to what they say. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and have the panelists introduce themselves and say a little bit about their company. Yes. End of the day, their company, and then I have a couple of opening questions, and then we'll see where the questioning takes us. So we could start here with Valerie.
Sure. Hi, I'm Valerie Leek. I'm with Bankers Bank. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources. Bankers Bank is exactly what our name says. We're a bank for banks. We do mortgage processing and bank card programs and cash letters and wire transfers and lots of other things. The great thing about us, especially being based out of the Midwest, I think, is that we really prescribe to the whole supporting rural, supporting communities. All of our banks that we work with are community banks. So you're talking about ones that are in small little villages and towns, some bigger ones that are here in the city, but being able to support them all and hopefully make them as successful as they can possibly be. And so I think that carries over into our culture and also into the types of students that we look for and the opportunities that we try to provide for them.
Hi everybody, my name is Tim Casey. I'm the Director of State and Federal Compliance for Skyward. Skyward is a K-12 administrative software. We have a pretty big footprint in the state here of Wisconsin. About 85% of the schools in the state run our product. Use it for a variety of things on the student side, from tracking student demographic information, food service balances, response to intervention. On the finance side, paying employees, paying vendors, tracking professional growth, employee management information, those types of things. So we have about 600 employees. About 500 of them are here in Stevens Point at our world headquarters. We have a footprint in 21 different states across the nation and 9 different countries.
Hello, I'm Lisa Herchard. I work at Aprilaire, a division of Research Products Corporation here in Madison. We're a manufacturer of Aprilaire indoor air quality products. So anybody's familiar with that, if they have a furnace or an air conditioner or a need for humidity or a need to get rid of the humidity. We are, all of our employees are right here in Wisconsin except for our sales force, so we're proud to manufacture all of our products right here in the U.S. And we also develop and design all of our products from the ground up. So we are the company that does not have an internship program right now and would like to explore it. And just like a lot of people, we really want to be competitive for the talent that's out there. We have a need for engineering people, business. Right now I'm hiring, I think we're adding 3 new product managers. So we're growing, and so it's really exciting for us to explore this topic.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nate Schumacher with Midwest Prototyping. Midwest Prototyping is a 3D printing service located in Blue Mountains, Wisconsin, so just about 30 minutes west of here. We were founded back in 2001. Our president, Steve, actually learned about 3D printing in college, and he went into industry after that. Couldn't really shake what he learned about 3D printing. It always piqued his interest. So he founded Midwest back in 2001. He started with just one 3D printer in an office and a desk. which has now grown to over 30 industrial 3D printing systems across 4 different locations. 3 of those are here in Wisconsin. We also just opened a new facility in Colorado. We're growing fast, and part of that, or part of what's enabled that, is our internship program. We do a lot of recruiting and hiring through that program, and that's really kind of been one of the key components for us to continue to grow and staff our growing organization.
Thank you. Now, one of the questions and one of the themes that have emerged from our discussions today centers around policy, centers around integrating internships out in the community, and just really connecting students and getting them internship opportunities. So if you could tell us what you would like to see from academia and from policymakers regarding supporting internship programs, what do you need or what would you like to see regarding internships in your community?
Go for it.
Yeah. I would say from academia side, we work very closely with, we have a UW extension in Stevens Point that we work very closely with, as well as North Central Technical College and Mid-State Technical College, and we've helped them develop their curriculum over the years. We've been doing our internship program for about 18 years now, and it's really picked up in the last 5 or 6. At a certain point, we were not seeing the return on the investment right away, and so we took a step out and started to work with local colleges and universities to help them build their curriculum, to help shape it to match what we do at Skyward. Programming and development is a big one for us, and so we found that the local universities were teaching the students to program in a language that didn't match up with what we were all about, and which is C# for us. So we started to help them develop their curriculum to match up with that. So when internships were offered, it was a great way for us to get a foot in the door, so to speak, and make our company more desirable to them, because not only were they able to get an internship that related back to the field that they were studying and what they were actually working on at the university or the technical college, but it also, when it came time to look for a job, if they didn't have that internship experience or we missed them in some way, it lined up very nicely with what we were offering. So it's been successful for us.
I'd agree. I would say that the other thing that over 20 some years that I've been doing internship programs is really inviting employers in to your classroom, into the clubs. And we might all go to a career fair and we have the chance of seeing maybe 2 or 3 kids throughout I shouldn't call them kids, sorry, students, throughout that process that really you remember, and they apply and they do all the things they need to do. But the most success I've seen is when I can get in front of a business club or in a classroom and come in at night and bring some pizza or whatever and talk about what we do, what you might want to take for classes, what you want to focus on, things like that. I think the students find a lot more value in that. And certainly it gives me a little bit of a leg up to talk to them, but also hopefully I'm giving them some good information as well.
For me, it would definitely both of what you both said, but because we haven't really done a lot of this yet. I think having the guidance, having some sort of resources or guidance out there to help me design the best type of internship program in order to be competitive in the internship world, but also just for the best experience for the children. You got me saying kids, children, for the students, and hopefully the future employees of our company. So that would be what I would say we need.
Okay, just to add to all those good thoughts. For us, education's always been a gap in our industry. A gap as far as the knowledge of 3D printing and advanced manufacturing. So over the last 5 years or so, we've taken an active approach to, throwing ourselves into the mix. We've developed an educational program both internally and externally at Midwest Prototyping. We've seen more and more schools adopt 3D printing in the classroom. You know, that's starting in middle school or even elementary school. So for us, it's great to see that. And, you know, we've started to build on that in high school level students all the way through college internships. We have a youth apprenticeship program for high school students in the area where they get to learn about 3D printing. They get to, you know, use their internship for credit in college. And then also for the college students, you know, they're either able to do an internship or co-op at Midwest Prototyping. They get to learn about 3D printing, and they also get to, in many cases, earn credit, college credit, for that internship or co-op. So for us, it's good to see more and more education in 3D printing, you know, both through internship programs and just the industry as a whole being adopted by more companies, and the media and, you know, everything is really adopting this technology.
Thanks. Now, this question actually was suggested from, there's going to be a couple questions that were actually suggested from attendees at the conference here that pulled me aside and said, you got to ask this one. So this is the first one, okay? So is your internship program, if you could describe, is it a very formal, structured, rotational internship program where a student travels from maybe area to area to area and gets a broad set of experiences? Or is it a bit more specialized? If you could tell us a little bit about how you operate your internship programs, or in the case of April Air Research, I mean, what would you think, how you might structure it and what you might need for that?
Well, I know that we've talked with our engineers who have suggested, you know, although an engineering student would come in for mechanical engineering and work within our department there, they would also have the opportunity to rotate among different engineering managers. So they would work in the lab, and then they would go and they would work on a design project, and then they would have the opportunity to go and work in another area of our engineering group. That's what we talked about.
For us, I would say we try to structure it as best as we can. We work in a very fast-paced industry where we don't really know what's coming 2 days out. So we try to rotate our interns through each of our core technologies. We have 7 different 3D printing technologies. So throughout the summer, we try to get them in each department, if you will, for at least a couple weeks. But if we do get busy in a certain area or things pick up, we may allocate our interns to different areas or different projects depending on workload. One thing that we do structure is a summer project. So outside of our daily workflow and our daily manufacturing process, we assign a unique project to each student. This is a project that they lead. They may partner with a process lead or someone from the business department. But this is a month or a summer-long project where, you know, we come up with ideas and try to guide them a little bit, but really it's up to them to take this project and run with it. And a big part of that is just for them to get familiar to what it's like, you know, working at a company, having stand-up meetings weekly. You know, at the end of the summer, they have to present this in front of the entire company. So that type of experience gets them ready for their next job, whether or not that's with Midwest or another company.
We have 3 phases. So our internship, our true internship, would tend to be in a department. Part of the reason for that is we have 7 different profit centers. Each of them is very unique. So they'll start there, and then usually that also pairs well with, if they're taking it for credit, they usually have to have a project, and so it just fits a little bit better for them. But we usually hire people with the intent of it's going to be for the summer or it's going to be in the fall. And then, like, if everything goes well and we've got work, then maybe we'll extend it. That's typically when they get those additional opportunities to go to different departments and that type of thing. I do hire students in the summer and specifically tell them, I need you to come in and do this. I need you to come in and digitize all of my employee records. And it is a horrible, horrible job, but it has to be done, and it's not an internship, but call it what you will. That's an opportunity to learn. And then the third thing is we just started this year, we have a banker development program. We hired 2 new grads. We've committed to them for 18 months that they'll be employed full-time benefits, all that. And they rotate either a month or 2 months or up to 4 months through our different areas, learning all about banking, with the intent that if we don't have a spot for them, they would be prepared to then go into a community bank and be able to support them. The finance industry is being hit, like everybody else, very hard with the market and not having enough people to do the jobs and retirement and all the other things we hear about. And so part of our mission is to support those community banks, and so we thought this would be a good way for us to do that.
With the exception of programming and development, for us, that's a pretty niche area. We very much are advocates of the students going from one department to another if they so choose. A lot of it ends up being our leadership team taking a look at the interns and saying, you know what, we know the culture of the company. We know, after getting a chance to know the interns for a little while, if there would be a better fit for them within the organization. So we try to place them, because the intent is really to hire them after school. And so if they come in, I've had a few recently that just the area that they were in, it just wasn't for them. But because we know our company well enough to be able to say, let's go see if they would be a better fit in this area. They seem to have the personality, the skill set, whatever that may be. So we'll put them in those areas. So programming and development is the one exception that's very much specialized. But anything else, we bring them in, and then we try to find the right place for them, or if they show interest in another area. And one of the things, even for full-time employees, we're very big on mobility within the company and movement within the company, and so that's not uncommon for full-time. So we don't want to make it. We want the interns to recognize that as well.
Okay, now this is the second question that came from an audience member, and I have to say it stopped me dead in my tracks when it was asked. So thinking back, when you were developing your internship program as an organization, or will be developing your internship program as an organization, where do the internships fit in your corporate culture? Tell me a little bit about your decision to bring in internships, or potentially bring in internships. What were some of the things that you thought about in your leadership team? What were some of the things that were concerning to you, if anything? And if you could just kind of share with us a little bit about that. Several people were asking about that.
So through the different organizations I've worked with, there's always a few concerns. Some of it's just as time has gone on, confidentiality. Can you have them into your systems? How quickly can we really onboard them? They're here for 3 months, how can I really get value out of them? So I think one of the things I learned through the process is that you really need to focus in on, while you want to give them something meaningful, and you should, making sure that you're narrowing that scope into what can really happen in the time frame that you have with them. Knowing that if they work out good, and they maybe stay on, or you move them to a part-time or whatever it may be, that you can always, build upon that. A lot of our interns will have for 2 or 3 years. Years ago, I used to say, I'm only going to hire a junior or senior because they really only know something then. It's probably the worst idea I ever had, because if somebody can get an internship as a freshman, why not? There is no difference anymore. And I encourage students all the time to get as many internships as possible. It only benefits them. So I think, just being concerned with, internally what your business is, and, what can you really have them be doing. And then second of all, we try to incorporate them as an employee. So while you're here, you get everything an employee does. If we give our employees $150 for logo wear, well, you get $70 for logo wear. If we give them a Padfolio, you get all the things that we would do for a new employee, we do for them. If we have a Christmas party, or not a Christmas party, a summer party of some kind, they're invited, and try to just encourage them to be part of the group, because I think while we think about meaningful work and we think about projects and all the things we get out of it, part of it is they also need to get an idea of, in this industry, how am I going to be treated and what's that culture like? And that's as important, and something that they need to have time to do as well.
We're adding about 60 to 70 employees a year right now. So we're experiencing, for a company of 600, and especially in a population of Stevens Point, which is about 25,000 people, pretty rapid growth. And developing that talent pool is something that is really important to us, and so the internship program has been really great for that. Even looking at outside of the community, I mean, you have to try to stay competitive in the market, and in central Wisconsin, I mean, we even lose a fair amount of applicants to even down here in Madison area at Epic. In our area, we have Century Insurance is another big employer in our small community. So we sell the interns on the culture of Skyward to go along the same lines as you. We treat them the same way. We bring them in and start to train them day one as if they were a full-time employee, and it's something that we talk with them about. Like, it's not just another summer job. It's the intent to hire you full-time, and we want to show you what Skyward is all about, and bringing you into the culture and getting you to understand what we're all about. Family-owned, family-operated. That's a big deal for us, and so treating them that way, I think, is what's led to, we have about 60% retention or full-time hire after graduation for our interns. We're just trying to build our club team, so to speak, so we can continue to develop that talent pool as we need more and more people and as they graduate. And so, to your point as well, we started out originally with juniors and seniors, but we said if there's someone that has an interest even at freshman or sophomore level, that's just more time that we can work with them and develop them, so when they do come on full-time, they hit the ground running. So keeping them in the area is a big deal for us. Attracting them from other areas of the state, seeing a little bit more from the Fox Valley, Appleton, Green Bay area is a big deal for us. So staying competitive, but selling them on the culture.
I think one of the things I have a concern about, as I'm thinking about doing an internship program, is the managers actually sticking to the program and making it meaningful for the student. I think I would want to commit to that, and I would want it to be that everything it could be for the student too, and not just to have somebody come in and have them doing the grunt work, but to have it, and that would mean they would have to take the time to do it. So that's one of the biggest challenges that I think we'd have to overcome.
Yeah, I would like to echo a lot of things that have already been said, but I think culture is very important, and that's probably one of the most important things we do while hiring interns. Make sure that we express our culture and explain our culture, and also see if they're a fit for us. I think that's a big part of it. During interviews, I know that's at the end of it, the interns always have their opportunity to ask questions, and we're seeing that almost every intern asks us about our culture or what do we love about our job. So I think from a recruiting standpoint, that's very important, and continuing to encourage that and treat interns like they are any other employee. We know when someone's a good fit, and it seems to be more and more often where we bring on an intern, and after a week or two, the management team might turn to each other and say, it seems like they've been here for 10 years, and that's how you have the right fit. So, yeah, I think that's very important.
Thanks. One of the themes that came up this morning was equity and inclusion, and making sure that a broad range of students have access to internships, that it's not kind of a club process, and that everyone has equal access. So I'm just wondering if you can speak a little bit to that issue, equity and access to your internship opportunities, or how you might construct that if, Lisa, if you go ahead and develop an internship program. And maybe what are some best practices? What have you done to find a nice pool of candidates and open it up to a lot of different candidates?
I can start. Well, originally when we started the internship program, it was specifically for customer service related positions, but as we started to grow exponentially, we saw the need for the development side as well. So that actually takes up the majority of our pool of interns each year, which is somewhere between 20 and 25 on average. But we also opened it up. We now have interns in every department in Skyward. So we found that as far as opening up the access, that was our way to be able to do that. We started with a very small group, and then as it started to grow and we started to develop better policy and procedure and get our feet under us, we saw the need to do this in a variety of different departments, and especially working more closely with the local universities and seeing the need for the internships to increase. We felt that it behooved us to be able to offer a variety of different opportunities out there. But so we started small, and then we branched out, and now every single area, they don't all have the same stake in it. I would say the majority still are customer service and programming, but every department continues to offer them each year.
I think for us, it's recruiting across many different universities and different types of colleges, not just the four-year colleges, but also the technical colleges as well. And for us, a small company growing fast, we have evolving needs. So one summer we may need interns for a certain position, or the next they may change to a different need in our organization. So I think it's really finding good students, and then I always say we find jobs for good students. We don't try to find good students for jobs. And approaching it that way keeps it very inclusive or exclusive to anyone. So
I think I already kind of mentioned the fact that I think if you're looking, you have to know your organization's needs. I used to work in engineering, civil engineering, and there are certain schools that are very well known for civil engineering. And so one of the things we chose early on is to say we're going to target those schools because they work for us. But then within that school, we were open to, if I have an accounting internship, if I have HR, whatever I may have, we would look at that. And so I think, a lot about what you can provide to a student in an internship has to do with how well you know your own organization and what the capabilities are. And to speak to Lisa's point, I mean, you're going to have those managers who are like, yeah, I really want an intern, and the minute the person gets there, they're going to put them in a corner and have them do spreadsheets all day long. And unfortunately, it becomes kind of your own, somebody has to own the program and have to be able to say, okay, so if that's what they're going to get, what else can I pull them into? Who can I pair them up with? How can I make sure that they aren't eating lunch all by themselves? There is an onus that the company takes on when you bring in a student, just like I think as if you bring in a full-time employee. You should have already felt like you've invested in this person, and that shouldn't be any different from an intern. So I think, for me, I think just knowing yourself and then looking for students that fit that mold, and then the other thing is when we are trying to get out into classrooms, we always support the fact that use your career services department, use the career fair, use any resource that's in front of you. You have to show an initiative to get those jobs. Yeah, there's a lot of internships. I was just at the UW Career Fair, and there's a lot of employers there. But the only people you're going to remember are the ones that are prepared and ready, and they know you, and they've done their homework. So I think just, again, there's more to what we do than just giving somebody an internship in the summer. It's also about guiding them to what they need to get if they want to get a good internship as well.
Yeah, the only thing I guess I'd have to add to that is that I would really, because I don't know a good answer to that question, other than I would also rely on the college helping with that as well, and making sure that what they're doing, the reach out that they're doing, is encompassing a lot of people. But I really like the idea of the technical schools and not just one type of school too. That's good. I'm taking notes.
Okay. What resources from colleges or universities were most helpful to you if you've got an established internship? And we see you kind of answered that already, but kind of thinking back, what was some of the best information or what were some of the best resources you got from colleges, if you got some from career services, professors, deans, chancellors, anything?
For us, I think one of the most unique opportunities that we have with the college is that Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, we actually are on the board of their model making program. So kind of having an inside track with them, we get to express our needs as a company so that, you know, their faculty can kind of tailor their program to what, you know, prototyping or manufacturing companies might want out of those students. So that's been a good opportunity for us, and I think it's gone both ways, where the college has gotten a lot out of it as well.
For us, I talked a little bit about it earlier, but from the development and programming side, it was the greatest thing that the university has offered us was the ability to sit down and talk with them about their curriculum. And what we found in that is that they were teaching programming language that was not only out of date, but it wasn't even up to industry standard any longer. It was just simple to teach. And so that was the greatest thing for us, because we had a chance to sit down and educate them a little bit on what was industry standard now, but it also showed that return on that investment, because it allowed us to help shape those students and start to teach them things that could be applicable to Skyward when they came out and into the job market.
Years ago, a lot of the career services departments at the university system had almost a career service person for each department. So you'd have, you know, the CALs would have one, and the school of business and whatever. They each have their own person. And obviously, as time has gone on and those resources have shrunk, there's been a change in what schools are able to do. And I think as employers, we need to be aware of that. But I think it is nice when schools can try to make it as easy on us as possible. That sounds self-serving, but you know, when we come to a career fair, it was great. I'll speak to Madison's again. Drove up, somebody opened my trunk, somebody took all my stuff, they took it to my booth. That's something Platteville's been doing for a number of years. They reach out and they're like, hey, somebody needs somebody to speak. Every place I've worked until now, we've had scholarship programs where we've given scholarships out at different levels, not just when people are getting out of high school. Those have been great opportunities that have opened up doors for us to be involved at the university. I think probably the place, though, that when it comes to internships that I've ever experienced that does the best is at UW-Oshkosh. They have a great, their school of business and kind of encompasses all that financial services. They have this huge night, and they separate the students into their fields of study. The professors are there. They make sure that students are getting to you, and they're talking to you, and they're sharing. They can't give you resumes. All they can do is give you business cards, but it really helps the students, I think, get comfortable in how they have to present themselves, but also gives us a great opportunity to talk to a lot of different students and faculty at the same time. So I think there's a lot of things that schools can do, even though I totally understand that they have limited resources. Do one thing really great, and you'll have employers knocking your door down to try to participate.
And Lisa, anything to add? You started this line of questioning here, so anything else to add?
No, I don't think so, no.
Okay. Now, I want to make sure that you guys get opportunities to ask questions as well, so I'm going to be checking the audience like my colleagues did this morning, so feel free to raise your hand. But one of the more interesting lines of questioning this morning, those of you we can recall, is what do we do, and I want to hear from the employers, maybe the mediocre student. Remember that line of questioning and that discussion. What do we do? They aren't the 3 or the 3.2 or the 3.5 GPA. And you see that come across your desk, and they're looking for an internship. And how do you regard that? Do you regard it any differently? So I think our audience, I'm seeing the reactions here, that this might be some interesting, and I think they'll be interested in your responses.
Yeah, that one for me is pretty simple. Because I wasn't the 3.5 student in college either, and so my practice has always been in hiring that I hire personality, I can train skill, and so when those students come through the door, you know, just like any other applicant for a full-time position, I'm looking at the content of that person and what makes them who they are. And you know, in the service industry, I appreciate the people that have worked in food and beverage, or I was a golf pro before I came into Skyward, so that's, you know, I didn't take a natural path into technology either. So for me, that's an easy one. It's more about who they are, not what they are on paper.
I agree. I think I think there is a threshold. I mean, when you start getting into the 1 point somethings, that's a little harder. But I think, are you involved in clubs? Are you, is there a progression? Do you hold a job? There's a lot of things we can glean out of a resume that tells us about the person. What classes are you taking? Are you in a field that it's hard versus an undecided general studies? I mean, I think if you've been doing this long enough, you kind of can look at that. You look at, did they get help with their resume? Does it look right? I've seen a lot recently where there just isn't a lot of effort put forth, and that's probably more of a turnoff than a number is for me.
Yeah, I think in college, your professors will tell you that when formulating your resume that you need to make it concise and direct someone's eyes to what's important, and that's very true. We probably only spend 5 to 10 seconds looking at a resume. The GPA on the resume, that's not a huge consideration. We've hired students with less than 3.0 GPAs. It's not uncommon, and like the other panel members have said, it's really about the personality, the fit, the culture. Experience is important, but a student right out of school or still in school may not have a whole lot of experience. I mean, that's to be expected. So again, it comes down to those interviewing skills, the personality, the culture, and the fit.
When we hire students just right out of college, so it's going to be a little more difficult in our engineering group. They're really snobs when it comes to even what school they went to, and I've had, so getting past that is going to be difficult for us. I think it's just going to depend on the role, but I can just say that my daughter's a sophomore. She's at Marquette, and she didn't have great grades at all, and she didn't have very good SAT scores, but she really worked on selling herself to get into that school, and she did it. And that, you can't give that, it's hard to give that advice to somebody coming in unless you can coach them, but that's really going to be a lot of it, especially with our sales group. They don't care what you got for, even if you're in college. They just want you to have a great personality and have have all that.
I think.
Oh, absolutely, yes. This is your conference too. Yes.
Yeah. So you're talking about now looking at the grade point average. What about, let's say, majors? Obviously, if it's an engineering position, it needs to be an engineer. But maybe in the banking industry or whatever, there might be, let's say, humanities students, liberal arts students. How does major fit into that also, as you're looking? And I'm knowing that some are really more major specific.
In an internship, it's less probably, unless it's one of those areas that you just have to. If somebody says, I think my dad's a banker and I think I want to do that, but right now I'm just kind of undecided, I don't know, fine, yeah. But I think, the advice, the advice that students should get is it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do the rest of your life. I think most of us here can probably say we're not probably doing what we thought we were going to do when we came out of high school or college. But I think, for us, it's a lot about, for me, I always kind of look at what are you surrounding yourself with. Really short story, I had a young lady here from this school that was an accounting major, and she somehow got involved with World Dairy Expo and fell in love with agriculture, and she applied like 3 times for internships with us. I used to work for the farm credit system, and I kept saying to her, it doesn't really fit, it doesn't fit. And finally she's like, what do I have to do to show you? And I'm like, well, you're gonna have to inundate yourself with ag. Well, she did it. She went and washed cows, and she did this, and she got a farm job, and she did all these things and started taking classes, and I think she's been with the company like almost 8 or 9 years now, and she's a loan officer and very successful, and she didn't go into it thinking that that's where her niche was gonna be, and that's where she ended up. So I think the right person who really wants something, that comes through. Unfortunately, that getting your foot through that door is just the hardest part of it.
For us, I wish we would have more humanities majors apply, honestly. And part of that's on us. We do a lot of recruiting at Platteville and NWTC, and in those programs, we go on the STEM days, right? So we're interfacing with those students. But we had an English major applied, and we happened to be working on a business system at that time, and a lot of documentation was taking place, and now she's a full-time employee. So going into this in our recruiting, we weren't even recruiting for English majors at the time. So I think the message to students would be, don't be put off because it says engineering majors or a specific major, because you may have a fit somewhere else in the company, or maybe they're just looking for the personality and not necessarily the GPA or major.
Got a couple questions. We'll go here and then there next.
Hello, I'm Chandra Gesh from Tennessee State University. I'd like to know, what are your best strategies to include diversity, inclusion, and make sure that it's actually working?
What are our best what?
Strategies.
Strategies, okay.
It's a tough one for us because of the market that we're in. We have a more diverse group in our internship program down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Being in central Wisconsin, that is a little bit difficult to do. It's a pretty specific demographic up there, but in Dallas-Fort Worth area, we definitely look at going out and again working with the local universities, technical colleges, and that type of thing on promoting the fact that Skyward is incredibly diverse and that we want to and welcome everyone to the internship program. So I don't know that I have a real great answer for you on that one, but we, like everything else, we are working more closely with the local colleges and universities on promoting that. And
Yeah, it'd be great if, I think if we had wonderful answers for that one. That's a challenge. It's always been a challenge. In the Midwest, I think, especially if you're in Stevens Point, even in here in Madison, I mean, we probably have more diversity where I work now than I ever have had. But I think one of the things that, I've always espoused is that diversity is a lot of things. We all kind of center on one or two that comes from our history, but I even think about like banking. If you think about it, you probably envision a white-haired old man. And I think thinking about females, thinking about other ethnicities, thinking about people who are in wheelchairs, I think just thinking about how no matter what, we can overcome whatever that struggle, we think that struggle might be. Coming up with strategies is so hard, but I think if you work for an organization that at least embraces the fact that we're willing to do what we need to do, I've always felt like at least we crossed that hurdle.
I will say one more thing on that too. I think your involvement as an organization in the community helps get that message out. Just because people, it's hard to scale that, and it's hard to promote that because everybody probably says it because it sounds good. But to be more active in the community and to show people what your organization is about and who works with you and for you, I think is maybe a stronger way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'll just be forthright and say that I work for an 80-year-old company that is trying to overcome our image as an old boys club, and it's really true. And we have our first female vice president of HR right now, who just started. So first leader woman, and so we're really at the infancy stages of that. So I don't have any good answer to that at all.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily have a formal or active program by any means, and something that we could work on. But as a whole, we are a younger company, and we are recruiting a lot from colleges. So naturally, that's kind of spreading diversity into our company by recruiting students straight out of school.
I just wanted to go back to the mediocre student for a second. In my work, a particular employer that comes to mind I'm working with. I work with him every semester to send mechanical engineering students, I think he's looking for, a student with an engineering background. So the work involves getting dirty. It's working with pumps and that sort of thing. And so it involves, as he calls, getting your hands dirty, so to speak. So he's looking for a specific prototype of student. So I got a student in. I've been able to place someone in there each semester for the last couple of years. But anyway, I got one student in, and he seemed to be a pretty good, I would consider him maybe rough around the edges, for lack of a better word. He's a little rough around the edges. Grade point average maybe around the C, but he seemed really interested and motivated to do this particular internship. And it's very difficult for me to find a lot of students to place in here. But anyway, so I called the employer. I said, I may have someone, I'm interviewing a student, I may have someone for you who might be interested in interviewing. So I said, I didn't say rough around the edges, I said, he may be a diamond in the rough. I changed it. And the employer said to me, that's fantastic. I want a diamond in the rough. That's what he was looking for, that type of student. Someone that I can groom and mentor into this position, because he was a former graduate from the college. So he wants to give back to the college, and he considered himself a diamond in the rough. And so, I mean, you know, we should never assume. You know, that's a perfect example of a situation where you shouldn't assume, and I assumed that he wouldn't be interested. He was very much interested. And he got hired, and he's working out well.
I think you're right, and a lot of us do like diamonds in the rough because they have potential, but also they're willing. They don't come in and say, okay, I'm not going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to be a manager in 3 months. They're willing to work hard and do what they need to. So that's a really good point.
Okay, Linda, and I'll go next. Okay.
I was wondering, based on your experiences, do you see benefits of interns joining your teams and the team members' relationships with the interns?
I think it goes back to the culture. You know, it's similar example. Getting them in day one and really enveloping them into the culture is probably the best way to help with their development. It's hard because you don't want to force things on people, but you definitely want them to understand what we're all about. And that's why working again with the local universities and everything, we pair very closely with them on developing the internship program, but I'm sure like anybody else, it is still an application process, and we have to, nobody is really placed at Skyward. They are placed with an opportunity to be interviewed. And so we still have to make sure that because the intent is to hire them full-time, we need to know from day one that they are going to fit the profile and be a good fit in Skyward, not even just with technical capability, but with the culture itself. It's probably 50-50 as far as technical capability, but also will they work in this company? We've grown to be very successful in the last 37 years, and it's because we hire really good people. And so we're very careful in that regard.
I actually have two questions that are somewhat related. I'm at a private liberal arts institution, and we have a not insignificant amount of students that are international students that go through the process in order to get their Social Security card to work. Do you have experience, hiring international students? And particularly some of those that want to transition from CPT to OPT later after they graduate. And the second question is we have both international students and citizens that are going into the MBA but maybe switching careers. Have you ever entertained MBA internships?
I guess I'll start. Last summer, we hired our first international student from the Milwaukee School of Engineering, a master's degree student. So for us, that was a new experience that we went through this last year, learning about the H-1B process, the OPT, and what's involved with that. So that's something that we're new to, we're open to, and we're still kind of learning about it. I'd love to talk to you more about it offline, kind of our experience, but that's something we are starting to do.
We've had a couple people in our electrical engineering department who have started with us on an OPT, and they stayed. We went to the H-1B, and then we ended up doing the green card sponsorship for them. So they went through the whole process, and we've had 2 people that have done that, and we're definitely open to that, and MBA students also, because they obviously have a lot of great skills and experience to bring, not just the education, but the experience as well.
It's pretty new for us. We have, we'd be open to, I don't think we've ever done anything with MBA internships before, but we would be open to doing it. We actually have our first 2 international internships going on right now, sisters from New Delhi.
Same thing. I have no experience with it. I'm not opposed to it. I don't screen out and say, oh, we wouldn't. We really look at, who are we? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, is my favorite saying when it comes to that. But I do restrict our internships to current students, and I don't care if it's an undergrad, associates, math, whatever program it might be. And the only reason is if I have an internship opportunity and you've graduated and you're looking for full time, well, I have a need, and I can't tell you don't take a full-time job unless I know, oh yeah, I might have this turn into it. And so I usually tell people, I appreciate it. I'm glad that you'd like the experience, but you need to be an active student, still pursuing. But I'm open to anybody that, can present. Really, it comes down, I think, probably I've been saying it more so than anything, but presenting yourself in a manner that shows that you want the job, that you have confidence that you're capable of doing the job. That outweighs a lot of other things.
To in the back, and then, okay.
I have a comment and a question. The comment is Skyward. I'm from Stevens Point. We did a lot of internship with you guys. We still do. So thank you for that. And my question is, do any of you guys have unpaid internships? Why?
We do not. All of ours are paid.
All of ours are paid as well.
Ours would be paid.
Yeah, even our high school interns are paid, so we'll pay everyone.
Question from a student.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Rochelle Brown, a student at Tennessee State University. So in one of the breakout sessions, we discussed how students will come to these career centers with purple hair and these different looks because they're young and they're still experimenting with their individuality. And because you're working with students, they're young, they're not used to this corporate professional world, and they're coming from all these different economic backgrounds and workforce backgrounds. So when you all talk a lot about fitting into your company, if they don't necessarily look like they'll fit because they're not that stereotypical professional look, but they qualify in every other way, how are you making sure you're not filtering them out because they don't have that stereotype look?
Well, I
Excellent.
think that you can have purple hair, but you can still be professional. You don't, as long as you dress professionally and act professionally, that's really all that's required in our company. And we recognize there's different generations, and a lot of our employees too have tattoos, and they have
Yeah, we have, again, we've been around for 37 years, and so a lot of the leadership that has been around since day one is still there and starting to slowly make their way into the next phase of their lives. So we're breaking through some of that stuff, but you're 100% right. Especially, I guess the different hair colors wasn't something I thought of right away, but tattoos are one, piercings are another one. We certainly don't discriminate against that if they come in, with those types of things. But as far as when they come work for Skyward, we do have policy and procedure in place that you only, especially when you're working with customers as an example or on site at a school district, we have certain policies in place that hair color is not something that's one of them, but piercings as an example or tattoos as an example need to be covered up. So that's just something that's been successful for us in policy that we have in place, but certainly do not discriminate against that. Because you're right, it's just changing, and so you have to accommodate.
Yeah, in the financial world, and there isn't a lot of accommodation that happens. It's slowly changing, very, very slowly changing. But I think I take the opportunity when I speak to students to talk about that. Your individuality is one thing, getting a job is another thing. And so you have to figure out, is my hair color so important to me that I can't change it to something that would be in the realm of what, the mainstream. And I understand that's probably a controversial statement, but we have reputations to comply with. We need to generate revenue in all of our businesses, and sometimes that means that we have a certain image to uphold. So I think it is appropriate for us to say, these are the things that you need to do to be employed here. I've gone as far as to say, okay, you know, here's something that you could do to accommodate piercings or your hair color, or you have a tattoo, okay, you know, we can accommodate this or that or the other thing. So I think it's changing. It's probably not changing nearly as quickly as a lot of people would want, but it's changing.
For us, we have a very casual workplace environment. I don't look like wear this type of clothes every day. We have ear gauges, fun hair, all kinds of stuff at our company, and I think that goes into culture. But at some point, you know, maybe you do need to put a coat on. You have to wear nicer shoes for certain occasions, and that's part of business, and it varies from industry to industry.
All right, maybe just one more quick question, and then I want to respect your time.
First of all, thank you very much. This is one of the most valuable parts of the day. I think this is take-home stuff we can take to our students, so I really want to thank all of you. Another thing, though, and this is to anybody in the room too, if you're not involved with WEACE, which is our state Wisconsin Association of Colleges and Employers, please try to get involved. We have mixed groups and traditional groups at every WEACE session in December. And in the mixed groups, we sit down in small groups with employers and college folks like us and have these discussions. And again, it's what do you do at career fairs, and how can we get more students there, and what should we be telling our students about resumes? And then you also get in traditional groups where you sit with other employers and we sit with other college folks and have same discussions. And it's invaluable so we can stay current in the work that we do. And so I know the WEACE conference is coming up at the end of November. As an employer, and again, anyone who's not involved in the room here in Wisconsin, it's our state chapter of MACE, and it's very valuable. So I just think it's a really good organization if you're not involved. Look up WEACE and join. It's really, really important. So it helps us all do better work for our students.
Thank you. All right, let's give a round of applause to our... Thank you.